everyone. Welcome to Indiana SHIP's Facebook Live Medicare Monday. I'm Susan Spilly with Indiana SHIP, and we have a special guest today. But before I introduce our friend Charo, I do just need to remind you that you can ask your questions in the comment section. This will be posted on our Facebook page for about a month, and then we'll move it to our YouTube channel. So feel free, we're live. It's 10:01 Eastern Time in Indiana, so feel free to interact with us by that comment section. Now, I'd love to introduce our special guest today, Charo Boyd. She is the Public Affairs Specialist for Central and Southern Indiana with the Social Security Administration. She's responsible for informing and educating the public about Social Security programs and all the benefits. She's often a guest speaker for retirement and disability seminars, and she has trained HR managers, financial planners, tax preparers, social workers, case managers, disability advocates, and attorneys on all kinds of Social Security topics. She's been with Social Security since 2002, and she began her career as a claims rep in the downtown office. She's worked as an insurance specialist in all areas of the Title II program, which is Medicare, retirement, survivors, and disability insurance benefits. She's received numerous awards from Social Security, including the Regional Communicator Award and the Commissioner Citations from the Office of Communications. Charo, thanks so much for joining us and sharing what all you know and helping us understand our benefits for Social Security.
Susan, thank you for having me. It is a joy each time that I receive an invitation from Indiana SHIP. To your listeners, I'm sorry that my camera is not on. I am experiencing technical difficulties. I am sharing some Wi-Fi, so thank you all so much for the grace, but it is great to actually be here. When I think about Social Security, Social Security has provided financial protection for our nation's people for nearly 90 years. So this week, August 14th, 2025, Social Security will be turning 90 years old. And that means that chances are that you've either received Social Security benefits or you know someone who does. With retirement, disability, and survivor benefits, Social Security is one of the most successful anti poverty programs in our nation's history. From birth to marriage and into retirement, we are there to provide support throughout life's journey. And, I believe it's important that individuals understand Social Security. And so, again, I appreciate the invitation from SHIP. And before we dive into our live questions from our viewers, I wanted to cover at least three key points that I feel everyone should understand when it comes to Social Security. So, with that being said, let me advance my slide to cover those 3 points. I think point number one, it's important to understand how your Social Security benefits are calculated. And because as you work and your work history, that work history is going to affect the amount of Social Security benefits that you receive. So, in our first point, as we understand how our Social Security benefits are calculated, one, as we work and our wages are taxed for Social Security, we earn credits. This year in 2025, a credit is on each $1,810 of earnings that are taxed for Social Security. It's important to understand that the most credits that you can earn in a year are four. So if someone had wages of at least $7,240, again, that's tax for Social Security this year, then they would earn all four of their credits. This is, to me, the cornerstone in understanding Social Security, because to qualify for a Social Security retirement benefit, you basically need 40 credits. That's 10 years of work. And what's awesome about the Social Security program, you could work, let's say, from age 18 to 28, earn your 40 credits, and never work again. And at age 62, you would be eligible for a Social Security retirement benefit because, again, you need the 40 credits in order to be eligible for the benefit. Now, as we're building that understanding, again, understanding how your Social Security benefit is calculated, you need those 10 years of work, those 40 credits to be eligible. But the detail is here on this slide that when Social Security computes your benefit amount, we are going to look at your highest 35 years of wages that were taxed for Social Security. And when I say highest 35 years, I like to say we're cherry picking them. So it's not in a chronological order, but we're looking at the highest 35 years. We increase them, we index them to kind of account for inflation, and then we average those wages and we put them into a formula. On this slide and throughout the presentation, you'll sometimes see that I'll refer to different online services because I definitely want to encourage your viewers to know where they can go and access information for themselves. And so I have a URL here where they can go and to get additional information in regards to how their benefit amount is calculated. And with that, I want to mention that you can go into your secure My Social Security account. You simply go to ssa.gov/my account. You're going to log in through login.gov or ID me. If I only had 5 minutes to share with you today, this would be the one bit of information I would share is about your My Social Security account, because this is where you can go to access your secure services with Social Security. And so since we're here today talking about retirement benefits, I want you to know that in that secure My Social Security account, you can access your Social Security statement. And that statement is going to give you that estimate of what your benefit amount would be. Also, in that My Social Security account, you're able to see the list of your wages that have been taxed for Social Security. So, again, just the first point, and I know I took a little bit of time for it, but the first point is just understanding how your benefit amount is calculated. Again, it's calculated utilizing your highest 35 years of wages. How you can find out what your Social Security benefit estimate would be is taking the time, creating that secure My Social Security account, and getting your statement there. So again, that was step one. The second point that I believe that everyone should know in regards to Social Security is the impact about when they start that benefit, how that affects their benefit amount. And so when it comes to Social Security retirement benefits, your age when you start receiving the benefit is going to permanently affect how much of that benefit that you receive. So on the slide in front of you here, you have something called your full retirement age with Social Security. So you can find the year that you were born to the left. Then next to it, you see what your full retirement age is with Social Security. Now, what does that mean? If we go to our middle bullet, if you chose to wait until your full retirement age to start receiving your benefit, then you would get your full benefit amount. Let's go to our top bullet. If you chose to start your Social Security retirement benefit early, and the earliest you can receive retirement benefits on your own record is at age 62. You technically have to be at least age 62 throughout the entire month. But the detail here in our first point is if you choose to receive your benefits early, then your benefit is permanently reduced for each month that you receive it before your full retirement age. Now let's go to our last bullet on this slide. If you chose to delay receiving your Social Security benefit, so you don't start your benefit early, you do not start it at your full retirement age, but you choose to delay receiving it, then your benefit is going to increase for each month that you choose to delay receiving it after your full retirement age. Those increases are called delayed retirement credits, and you can earn those delayed retirement credits all the way up to age 70. After age 70, there is no advantage to delay receiving your benefit. Your benefit does not start automatically at age 70. I think that's important to note. Your benefit only starts once you do an application for it. But the details here are that your age when you start receiving it is going to determine whether or not you're getting your full amount whether you're getting a permanently reduced amount or whether or not you're getting an increased amount. I mentioned to you before that I'm often going to refer to our online services throughout the presentation, and I shared with you my favorite is that My Social Security account. Please note that in that My Social Security account, again, you're simply going to ssa.gov/my account. You're logging in through login.gov or ID me, but in that My Social Security account is a retirement calculator, and it is a fabulous interactive tool, and it allows you to put in different what if scenarios. So you can put in different future wages, and at the bottom, you can slide the bar to be different ages. And based off of that scenario, you would get an estimate of your Social Security benefit. So, again, that was my second thing that I feel individuals need to know about Social Security is one, how their age when they start receiving that benefit, how that affects their benefit amount. The third point, our third and final point, as I did my high level overview that I feel individuals need to know about Social Security, is the effect of continuing to work while receiving retirement benefits. And that's because if you're younger than your full retirement age and you earn more than a certain amount, then your benefits will be reduced because of those wages. And so before I get into those details of how you have an earnings limit and how, if you go over it, how that affects your benefit amount, I want to state again before I go into those details that the amount of your benefits that are reduced, if you do have wages over the limit, I want you to know that they are not lost. At the bottom of the slide, there's a note, and basically what it is explaining is that your benefit will increase at your full retirement age to account for any benefits withheld due to having wages over the limit. So I first needed to give that out there so I can make sure that we have peace to know that if you do have benefits withheld because you have wages over the limit, then to know that at your full retirement age, we will recompute your benefit amount to give you credit for those payments you didn't receive. So therefore, for the rest of your life, you'd have a higher benefit. But let's pause, as this is my third and final point, and go into the details about wages because I believe that many Americans are receiving their Social Security retirement benefit and they're working. And so I wanted to take some time and explain what the wage limit is. And so I want to start from the bottom of our chart. From the bottom of our chart, it explains that once you reach your full retirement age and continuing, then there is no limit on your wages. And when I say Social Security is looking at your wages, we are talking about what you are working and earning. So that is W-2 and self-employment. To be more clear, because I think this is a common asked question, we are not looking at your pensions, your annuities, your investment, your military income. I could keep going with such a long list of what we're not looking at. So I'll go back to my short one. We are looking at what you are working and earning, basically W-2 and self-employment. And at the bottom of our chart here, we're understanding that once we reach our full retirement age, there's no limit on our wages. Just in case you are a visual learner like me, I'm going to go back to our slide of full retirement age. So again, once you reach full retirement age, there's no limit on your wages. For my note takers, you reach your full retirement age the first day of the month. My birthday is April the 16th. I do not have to wait until the 16th of April to reach full retirement age. I reach full retirement age April 1st. It will not be an April Fool's joke. Again, I hope you'll remember that joke because again, we all reach our full retirement age the first day of the month. And again, the understanding we're getting here is at the bottom of our chart that once you reach that full retirement age and continuing, there is no limit on your wages in regards to Social Security. Let's unpack the rest of our chart. This is some detailed information, but I hope this is helpful for anyone here that is planning and wanting to understand how wages affects their benefits. The middle part of our chart is the wage limit the year you reach your full retirement age. I like to say that this wage limit is a window. It's a window that starts January 1st for everyone. But where that window ends, it ends at the end of the month before your full retirement age. So that means it ends at different points for individuals because it depends on when your full retirement age is. So again, middle part of our chart is explaining what the wage limit is, the year we reach full retirement age. That wage limit is a window from January 1st until the end of the month before we reach our full retirement age. And that wage limit this year for 2025 is $62,160. This is gross wages. And what I like to explain when I'm going over this wage limit, that year of full retirement age, since we're here today and we're, planning that for some individuals, depending on when you reach your full retirement age, you might have additional options of starting that benefit early. And so I'll use myself as an example. You already know, I said my birthday is April 16th. So beginning April 1st, I said I was unlimited in my wages. So that year, let's say if this was the year I was reaching full retirement age, I'd have a wage limit from January until the end of March. Because again, beginning April 1st, I'm unlimited. That wage limit I'd have, again, if that was this year, would be 62,160, again, just from January through the end of March. I don't mind sharing with you that my salary is not so high that I would go over 62,160 in 3 months. So I could consider the option of starting my Social Security benefit in January and continuing to work and have both. Because if I start the benefit in January, I'm not going to go over the wage limit. Again, I would have a wage limit from January through March. It's that 62,160. I'm not going to go over it in those 3 months. So I might consider starting my benefit in January. If you remember what we learned from our previous slide, if I started in January, it's going to be reduced for each month that I get it before my full retirement age. So I would be looking at a reduction of 3 months. But that's an option that I might consider, starting my Social Security in January and continuing to work that whole year. If I do the opposite scenario, I'll use my sister who's born in December. She reaches her full retirement age December 1st. So her wage limit window she's going to have the year of full retirement age is going to be those 11 months from January through the end of November. She most likely would go over the 62,160 gross wage limit. So it would not be to her advantage to start benefits in January and continue to work. I hope sharing those two extremes helps give you some information. Again, this presentation is not meant to be all inclusive, but I'm just trying to put out different scenarios. While I was talking with you and sharing that, I thought, hey, let me also share that if you were participating in a health savings account and you're looking at doing what most Americans call the best of both worlds, starting your Social Security benefit and continuing to work, please make sure you talk with your benefits administrator because there's some more details in regards to how that would trigger your Medicare and how that would affect your HSA. But again, we'll leave that to see if it comes up in a Q&A. But again, here on our slide, we unpacked the bottom. We talked about once we reach our full retirement age, there's no limit on our wages in regards to Social Security. We talked about that middle part of our chart that the year we reach our full retirement age, there's a wage limit. That wage limit's a window. It's from January 1st until the end of the month before we reach full retirement age. Because beginning the first day of the month we reach full retirement age, there's no limit. And now we're going to unpack the top of our chart. And I thank you so much for bearing with me. But when we're having a dialogue about Social Security, understanding age and wage is so imperative. So at the top of our chart, if you're under your full retirement age and you're receiving Social Security benefits, again, you're going to have a wage limit. This year in 2025, the wage limit is $23,400. This is gross wages. This is calendar year. If you go over that yearly wage limit, then Social Security is going to withhold $1 for each two that you go over the limit. Real quick scenario for my note takers. If you had $33,400 in gross wages, you're even $10,000 over the limit. So the slide explains Social Security would withhold $1 for each two that you go over. So you're 10,000 over. Social Security would withhold 5,000 of your benefit. If your benefit amount was 2,000 a month, Social Security is going to withhold those first 3 payments. And then the beginning of the next year, once we get your final report of wages, we would do a refund to you of any amount that was over withheld. Again, the detail here is if you go over that wage limit, that withholding of the $1 for each two that you go over, again, this is the yearly wage limit that we're talking about. I want to give you an exception to the yearly limit. That exception is the very first year you start receiving your Social Security benefits, you also get a monthly wage limit. The monthly wage limit you see here on the slide in parentheses. This year, that's $1,950 gross per month. Again, the monthly limit is only available the first year you start receiving benefits. The good news is there's nothing that you have to do to ask for it. It happens automatically. Some of you might be wondering, why do we also have a monthly wage limit when we have a yearly wage limit? And the answer is that the monthly wage limit is designed so that you are not penalized for the wages that you earned before you started receiving Social Security retirement benefits. I think it might be helpful to do a scenario here. Let's say if I retire in June and I start Social Security for July, and from January through June, I had earned $30,000 in gross wages. That $30,000 is already over this yearly wage limit of $23,400. But it's okay, because remember I said automatically, in addition to that yearly wage limit, you would also get the monthly limit, and the monthly limit's only that first year. And so how that would apply to our scenario is beginning in July, as long as my wages, and remember our definition of wages, what we're working and earning, as long as my wages are under the $1,950 gross per month, then I would be eligible for my Social Security benefit. I would have that monthly wage limit. Again, this year, that $1,950 gross per month, I'd have that monthly wage limit through the end of the calendar year. Once we get to the next year, once we get to January, then I would only have the yearly wage limit. Again, I know that I'm condensing a lot of information into a small 15-minute segment. If I could give you this assurance here, again, remember, I'm going to often refer you to our online services, that we have a fabulous earnings test calculator. You are able to simply put in your date of birth, your estimated earnings, your estimated Social Security benefit, and it asks you if this is the first year you're receiving benefits, so it knows whether or not to give you that option of that special monthly rule. So again, you can use this earnings test calculator to understand the rules that I just previously explained about wages. But again, your age when you start the benefit is going to affect how much of that benefit that you receive. So when you're talking with Social Security, we always want to start with your age so we can know whether or not you're at your full retirement age or whether or not you're under it, so we can understand how your age is affecting your benefit. And then the next big point was that if you're under full retirement age, then you do have a wage limit, and we unpack those details. We unpack those details here. That was a lot of information in just 3 points, Susan, but thank you for that time to allow me to provide that overview.
Thank you, Charo. For folks who are just joining us, we are talking with Charo Boyd from the Social Security Administration, and she's talking with us about Social Security retirement benefits. So before we go to our live questions, we're going to answer a few pre-submitted questions, and I'm going to start with mine first. Okay, Charo, in what? Less than a week, it's going to be the 90th anniversary of Social Security, as you shared before. And I know you've been with the agency for 22 years, and we have known each other and worked together for most of those years. So look back over your 20 years, 2 decades of service. And is there a particular moment or an experience that stands out that was especially meaningful or memorable to you? I know that's a
Mm,
big question.
it is a big question. Um, you helped me to just pause and think about, the 22 years that I've been with the agency. And I love our agency's mission. And, when I started off, I know you shared my bio with the audience, I started off as a claims rep. So I did claims for 5 years. And it was always a joy. Some individuals came in at 62, ready to start benefits. Some individuals came in at 70, ready to start benefits. You also had the heavy times where you were able to serve someone during a hard pivot in their life when they might have lost a loved one. Um, and with me having, as I just processed, with me coming my background, I have a master's in counseling. I love what I do. I love being able to do education and outreach and PR. But I hear the ding, ding, ding time. If I had to give a final answer, one of my most memorable moments with the agency is when we created that retirement estimator. And because I love what I do, I'm doing education and outreach. I'm out in the community. I'm explaining to individuals their options that they have of when to start and how the age affects benefits. And I'm even doing it again at family reunions. You see me out in the community. And even today, I know my camera's not on because of Wi-Fi, but you could just Google Charo Boyd. You'll see my image. If you see me out in the community, just say Social Security lady. If it's me, I'm turning around with the biggest smile. I might have a 16-year-old with me that looks like me that'll turn around with a smile too, will answer your questions. But again, what was most memorable is once the retirement estimator was created, I had this additional tool to be able to actually show individuals what their estimate would be based off of different scenarios because most Americans, are planners. And so you want to know, hey, what if I retire at I stop work at 60, but I don't start my benefit till 67. How are those 7 years of zeros going to affect my benefit? And sorry to be long-winded, but the detail is that the Social Security statement doesn't give you that information because the statement, it does a big assumption that the wages you earned last year, that you're going to keep earning those wages until you reach 62 or 67, etc. And so again, the best tool to use is the retirement estimator. And I've been talking, I could have been adding the visual behind me. Let me go back to the retirement estimator, is that the retirement estimator, it allows you to be interactive. So you're able to put in those different what if scenarios there. So you're able to say, I stop work at this age, this much wages in the future. And so again, I know I was long-winded. It was an excellent question, but one of my most memorable times is once we had this retirement estimator, because I could instantly be able to help someone know what their options are. And before that, only way you could get multiple scenarios for yourself in regards to estimates is you had to make an appointment to do those scenarios with the claims rep. So this to me changed the game.
Right. And, I will agree with you there. This retirement calculator is crucial. I always, when I talk with people who are thinking about retirement or are maybe retiring, say, the next month, and they don't know what they're going to receive from Social Security, they don't know how much Medicare is going to cost them. And so we like to get to people before they start doing this so we can share the information about this website and all the things that can do, and to find out about how much your Medicare is going to cost you and the related insurance options. And of course, that's what SHIP does. And so we appreciate having this additional piece of information that we can share with folks about all the things they can do online. And the retirement calculator, for me, is one of my favorite things about the website. So that's I'm with you there.
Awesome.
So we do have another question. We get asked this a lot because people sometimes confuse Medicare with Social Security. So here's a question that I think is going to be pretty popular. Can my spouse receive Social Security benefits based on my earnings record?
Oh, Susan, that is definitely, let me get to my slides because I know I have a slide in regards to spouse benefits. I love I love saying when I get asked a question, depends. And then I usually smile and laugh. And if anyone knows me, you know I'm a very detail-oriented person. And handling our PR, I love to give details, but I always have to shape things in a general setting, which first of all, the question was, you know, can I receive spouse benefits can I receive benefits on my spouse's earnings record? The answer is it depends. And so let's break down how spouse benefits are calculated and how much someone would be able to receive on their record. And if you all would give me grace, I promise I don't intend to be so long winded, but after I cover spouse, I want to go ahead and transition and cover survivors too, because I believe they go hand in hand and um, there's often confusion between the two benefits because they have similar eligibility criteria, but then there are four key differences. So give me about 5 minutes. We're going to do a quick high level overview of spouse and survivors. So first up with spouse benefits, I like to share that for the current spouse to receive on the worker's record, that the worker has to be receiving. So I like to say that the worker opens the door for their current spouse to receive on their record. The current spouse has to be married to the worker for at least 1 year in order to be eligible for benefits on that worker's record. The first bullet on this slide to me is one of the key understandings about spouse benefits. So again, we are currently talking about with the worker alive. How can a spouse be eligible for benefits on that worker's record? We said the worker has to be receiving first, but the first bullet explains that that spouse could be eligible for up to 50% of that worker's unreduced benefit. I underline unreduced and want to give my note takers some extra information. Unreduced equals, it means what the worker's amount would have been at full retirement age. Susan, I've seen this point, I've heard this point misquoted on large stages, of course, not by a Social Security representative, but if anyone's ever accepted any of those dinner invites where you meet with an advisor, I sat in a room many years ago and I heard someone misexplain it, and it just, again, puts the extra importance on understanding, you know, the rules with Social Security. But again, a spouse can be eligible for up to 50% of the worker's unreduced benefit. That's the worker's amount at full retirement age. If I could jump to our bottom bullet here, the spouse receiving on the worker's record does not reduce the worker's benefit. I'm going to go backwards a slide just to fill in some gray for at the bottom part that spouses can receive on the worker's record at age 62 and older. So the understanding that we learned about age, that if you start benefits at full retirement age, you get the full amount, or if you start it beforehand, it's reduced. That applies to spouse benefits. So again, first bullet at the bottom, a spouse can receive on the worker's record at age 62 and older. Again, I want to give you all details. The extra details here is that the bottom bullet, a spouse can receive at any age if they're caring for a child of the worker that is under the age of 16 or has been determined disabled by Social Security before age 22. But again, we're talking about spouse benefits. I said the key point is our first bullet here on this slide, that that spouse can be eligible for up to 50% of the worker's unreduced benefit, the worker's amount at full retirement age. I want to add to our discussion ex-spouses, because an ex-spouse may be eligible for benefits on a worker's record. So again, we are talking about the worker alive. If I could contrast current spouse to ex-spouse benefits, the current spouse has to be married to the worker for 1 year. So has to be married a complete 1 year in order to be eligible on their record. The divorced spouse, as you can see here on this slide and these bullets, that the ex-spouse had to be married to the worker a complete 10 years. They need to be unmarried and at least age 62 and older. That the ex-spouse has to be at least 62 and eligible to receive benefits. And the detail is that the ex-spouse, I think is important to state at the bottom of our slide, the ex-spouse receiving on the worker's record does not reduce the worker's benefit if the worker's remarried does not affect the worker's new spouse. So again, the ex-spouse had to have been married to the worker for a complete 10 years. I need to add, they need to be divorced for at least 2, and they need to be unmarried. How much is an ex-spouse eligible for on the worker's record? And again, I have URLs throughout to provide more additional information. This is high-level overview, but the ex-spouse, the starting point is that same starting point as the current spouse, which is that up to 50% of the worker's unreduced benefit. Susan, I want to go into a scenario before I go into survivor benefits when we're talking about spouse benefits. I'm a visual learner. I believe a lot of folks are as well. This third bullet on the slide kind of explains about how we combine benefits. And this is where I want to do a scenario. So for my note takers, you would write down that the worker's benefit amount at full retirement age is $2,000. And what the spouse's benefit amount is at full retirement age is $600. What I want to explain is how does Social Security combine benefits if a spouse is eligible on the worker's record? So first, we're going to pay that spouse on their own record first before we pay them off of the worker. And so in our scenario, we have the spouse at 600, we have the worker at 2,000. So let's run the math. So half of that 2,000 is $1,000. So the spouse could be eligible for up to $1,000 on that worker's record. We're first going to pay that spouse off of their own record first. So we're going to pay them that 600. And so that means there would be an additional $400 available for that spouse on that worker's record. So that 6 and that 4 combined is equaling that $1,000 they have. Extra layers of details. If that spouse tapped into it early, they would be reducing the 600 on their own record and reducing that 400 on the worker's record. Again, the spouse receiving on that worker's record does not reduce that worker's benefit. So in that scenario, we had the worker at 2,000, the spouse at 600. Let's keep the worker the same in our next scenario, but let's change the spouse. Let's say the spouse's full Social Security benefit is $1,200. That $1,200 is more than the $1,000 that spouse would be due on that worker's record. So in that scenario, they would just both be independent. The worker would receive their $2,000, the spouse would receive their $1,200. They don't reduce each other. It's just that the spouse's amount is more than half of the workers, so they're going to be independent. I hope those extra details of those scenarios help there again as we're just trying to provide a high level overview. So first bullet on this slide was our key point that when the worker is alive, the spouse is eligible for up to 50% of the worker's unreduced benefit. And unreduced benefit, we said, was the worker's amount at full retirement age. So as we get ready to transition to survivors, as we're putting our bow on spouse benefits with the worker alive, I just want to add clarity. If the worker delayed their benefit till age 70 and earn all those delayed retirement credits that we talked about earlier, it would not increase the spouse benefit. Again, we're talking about the worker alive because our first bullet says is that up to 50% of their amount at full retirement age. So if the worker delays their benefit or even if the worker taps in early, that does not affect the spouse. Again, we're talking about with the worker alive because you all understand that first rule is up to 50% of the unreduced benefit, the amount at full retirement age. As we put our bow there and we do a hard pivot to go to survivors, I want to share that with survivor benefits. So now we're talking about that the worker has passed away. And I know for some of the audience, understanding that this is an event with SHIP, many of you are Medicare age eligible. So you might have already tapped into your Social Security benefits. And so you really might have more questions in regards to survivor benefits. If something would happen and your spouse would pass, what is your eligibility that you would have? And so I want to state here that if the worker passes away, there are basically 4 key differences under the survivors program than under when the worker was alive. The first 2 are at the top of our slide, and it's that if the worker passes away, the surviving spouse can be eligible for up to 100% of up to what the worker was receiving. So those are 2 points there, because if we contrast them, when the worker was alive, it was 50% of the amount at full retirement age. But if now that we pivot, if the worker passes away, it's up to 100% of what the worker in general was receiving. So to kind of put that in more detail, if the worker had delayed their benefit and increased it with delayed retirement credits, then they increase it for their survivor. Or to say it differently, if the worker started their benefit early and reduced it, then they reduce it for their survivor. Because again, the first two differences under survivor benefits is it's 100% of up to what the worker was receiving. That's the best general way for me to explain it. Two other differences that survivors have that regular spouses do not is at the bottom of our bullet, it explains that survivors have the option to switch from one record to the other at any time. So in this situation, if the spouse had not tapped into their own Social Security benefit and now the worker passes away, they have the choice to receive on one record and switch to the other at any time. So just to be a little more detailed here, because I do understand this might be more of a focus for our audience today. Let's say, let's say I'm age 62 and I haven't started my benefits on my record and my spouse passes away. I could start benefits on my deceased spouse's record. They would be reduced because I'm getting it before my full retirement age. And then I could switch to my own later. Maybe I wait all the way till age 70 to switch to my own because my own is the only one that grows and earns delayed retirement credits. So maybe I wait till 70 to earn all those delayed retirement credits and switch over to my own. Maybe I do the opposite of that scenario. Maybe I tap into my own benefit at 62 and then I switch over to the survivor benefit at my full retirement age. It's important to note that the most I can receive as a survivor is the amount at my full retirement age. To say that differently, the survivor benefit that I'm due, it is not going to increase if I delay after my full retirement age. As we're talking about spouse and survivors, I want you to know the time that we spent this earlier today was very well spent because age and wages apply, meaning that if you start the benefit before your full retirement age, it's reduced because you're getting it early. Also, if you have wages, so if you're under your full retirement age, you're receiving a spouse or a survivor benefit, and you have wages, remember you're subject to that wage limit that we discussed before. And I think that's an important understanding to have when it comes to deciding whether or not to start a survivor benefit. But again, I've only covered 3 points. There's still one more, but the 3 points we said, three differences with survivor benefits was one, 100%, two, of up to what the worker was receiving, three, our bottom bullet here, that survivors have the option to switch from one record to the other. And then I'm going to go a slide before, and it's the second to the last bullet over to the left. Our fourth difference that is unique only to survivor benefits is survivors have a protection of a remarriage. First, what does protection mean? Protection means that if you remarry, that remarriage would not stop the survivor benefit that you're receiving. What marriages are protected? Marriages that happen after age 60 or age 50 if the survivor is receiving our special disabled survivor benefits. Just in case I lost anyone with that special provision, let's do a quick scenario. Let's say I was 60, my spouse passes away, I start survivor benefits on his record. They're reduced benefits because I'm getting them early. I'm going to be subject to a wage limit, as we talked about before. Let's say 3 years go by. I'm now 63, been receiving on his record for 3 years. I find love again. I remarry. When I remarry, this remarriage would not stop the survivor benefit I'm receiving on his record because the remarriage was after age 60. So I hope that that scenario kind of helps explain that protection, and that is unique. The protection of remarriages is unique to survivor benefits. As I close out just this high level overview on survivor benefits, I think it's important to understand when we're talking about survivors, we have a couple. And with that couple, either way, there were two benefits coming into that household. They might have both been just from one record. So the worker could have been receiving on their own record and the spouse also receiving on the worker's record. So it could all been off of one record, or it could have been a combination of where the spouse is receiving on their record and the worker's receiving on their own. But either way, there were two benefits coming in. And I think it's important to understand how the program works, that when one passes, in general, we're going to pay whose ever benefit amount is the highest. So our numbers that we used today, we said we had the worker at 2,000, we had the spouse at 1,200. So that's 3,200 coming into that household. If the worker passed away, what would happen? Remember, we said the spouse was getting 1,200. Best case scenario, the spouse would get the $2,000, 1,200 on their own, and the additional 800 on the worker's record. That combined amount, that $2,000. If the spouse was the one that passed away, then we would just continue paying that worker the $2,000. So again, in a survivor situation, we're in general going to pay whose ever benefit amount is the highest. So to say that differently, in a survivor claim, that household is losing income because again, we're just going to pay whichever benefit amount is the highest. I shared a little bit about myself when Susan asked me that question about my over 2 decades with the agency. And again, you know, with a survivor claim, a person's generally lost the love of their life. And it's even harder if they didn't know in advance that they're going to be losing some income as well, because we're paying in general whose ever benefit amount is the highest. Susan, I know I got long-winded in that response. My vote for that is I want folks to know when they're ready to apply, whether it's benefits on their own record, whether it's um, even benefits as a spouse, something we didn't get into, but a Medicare only application, they can do those applications online at ssa.gov. You also have the option. So I always like to say you have an option on how to receive services from us. So one, you know, our website, ssa.gov. You can also call us at our toll-free number, 1-800-772-1213, and make an appointment. That appointment can be for a phone appointment, which was very popular before the pandemic, continues to be popular. That's where we're going to call you at that appointed time, do the application with you over the phone. Or that appointment you can make can be an in-office appointment where you can come into the office to receive services. But again, 800-772-1213 is where you want to start in regards to reaching out to make an appointment with us.
Thanks, Charo. I do have a quick question about locations and which numbers to call. So the number that you're showing here, the 1213, is the national Social Security number. And it doesn't matter where your phone appointment is sitting with the SSA person. But do you still call that number if you want to schedule an in-office appointment and you want to go to a specific Social Security office? Are there any restrictions about which Social Security office you can visit?
Thank you so much, Susan, for that question. You can receive services at an office of your choice. And so again, your question was, is this the best number to call? The answer is yes. So calling 1-800-772-1213 and scheduling that appointment. Our first our first response when we're setting you up that appointment is going to be with your servicing office. So that is the office that, based off of where you live, that you are in their servicing area. But let's say if it would be better for you to go to a different office. So let's say I work downtown, but I live, and I know this is all through the whole state of Indiana, but just here locally in Indianapolis. So let's say if I work downtown, but I live in Fishers, my servicing office, because I live in Fishers, is going to be the Anderson Social Security office. But if I work downtown, maybe it would be more convenient for me to be able to do an extended lunch and go and do that application if I was someone that wanted to do an in-person interview. So I would be able to let that representative know when I call that toll-free number that I would like my appointment to be with this particular office, and they would be able to set up that appointment.
Great. And I think people would know to visit the ssa.gov website to find the list of actual offices for the SSA.
Absolutely. I believe that is always a great starting point. And when you're at ssa.gov/contact, it highlights so many resources because one, you may not need to come and visit us. The answers to our, frequently asked questions are there. But then again, you're able to type in that zip code and it shows you that servicing office. So there's so many resources there. So thank you so much for bringing up that point that there are resources when it comes to contacting Social Security there at ssa.gov/contact.
Great. So we're coming on almost an hour for our time together. So can you give us the latest updates pertaining to Social Security?
Ooh wee, that is such a jam-packed question. Um, the latest updates to Social Security, what I can state first is our website. So, and let me make sure that I am compliant. Susan, thank you for that question. Sorry for the all the slides that you all are seeing, but I need to make sure that we are compliant. Please note that, the information I'm sharing today is current at the time of this presentation, and that Social Security policy is subject to change. Our website, ssa.gov, is always the best place to start, and it's always the best place to go if you want updated information. And so I had a picture of our website, ssa.gov is where I was. But Susan, I want your listeners to also know that at ssa.gov, you can scroll down to the bottom of our webpage and you can select our communications corner. So since there are numerous updates, and I'll highlight one really big one next, but you can subscribe to that web page. So if there is an update with Social Security, you would get an email to that update. I I love that I get an email from ssa.gov about 30 seconds when I look at my email stamp before I get the email from my regional office when we have a press release or an update. So again, just know where you can go to stay up to date with Social Security. One, I said in general, our website, because usually if there's something big, we're going to have it posted on our homepage. But again, you can just scroll down at ssa.gov and click on the communications corner. For those who like the full URL, it's ssa.gov/news. So you can go there and you can see our press releases and other news. And again, subscribe to our blog.ssa.gov is going to also be a great resource. But let me highlight a big update with Social Security, and it was the passing of the Social Security Fairness Act. And this happened early this year. And Susan, what it did is it ended the windfall elimination provision and the government pension offset. Some of your listeners might be wondering, what is that? What does that mean? Those were offsets that reduced a person's Social Security benefit because they were receiving a non-covered pension. Non-covered pension means that when you work for that employer, you didn't pay into Social Security. And so that those offsets, it affected their benefit that they might have been due on their own record, and also a benefit that they may have been due on a spouse or a deceased spouse's record. And so again, it removed that offset, and therefore these individuals are due benefits. And so again, for a high level overview, let me just put the URL is here. So if I have anyone listening, or you have a friend or a family member, let's say you might have been a teacher in another state. I know Ohio is one that didn't pay into Social Security. Maybe they were in local law enforcement and they didn't pay into Social Security. Maybe they're a retired civil service employee. I want to make sure that they go ahead, click on this link, understand more about the change in the law, and that they reach out to us to apply for any benefits that they may be due. So that was a big update. But again, there's so many others, but our website, ssa.gov, is a really great resource.
Thank you. And, going back to the communications piece, you can choose which topics you would like to receive bulletins in your email. And so you won't get every single one, but you can choose which topics are most important to you. I know I too get those on a regular basis. So I think that's a terrific benefit. And thanks for the information on the Social Security Fairness Act. I think I meet mostly people who were civil service folks, and this impacts them. So, okay, I'm just reminding folks, you're on the Indiana Ship Medicare Monday Facebook Live, and we're joined by Social Security, who is the Charo Boyd from Social Security, the public affairs specialist for Central and Southern Indiana. So you have a few minutes to type in any questions that you have. But I did get one that came in while you were talking, Charo, and
Okay.
just real quickly, they want to know if their Social Security benefits are fixed after they enroll, or can they make changes later on?
Ooh, that is a great question. It causes me to go into that folder in my brain from when I did claims. So technically, the answer is no. So the question is, are your benefits fixed when you tap in? The answer technically is no, because you have options to withdraw your benefit. So that's where you complete an application to withdraw your benefit. You can do so within 12 months of starting your benefit. If you've received any payments, you have to pay us back the benefits that you received. If anyone else has received benefits on your record, you have to pay back those benefits too, except for an ex-spouse, because an ex-spouse doesn't affect this, but you'd have to pay back those benefits. You can only do that once in your lifetime. But again, you do have an option to withdraw your application. And this is an answer on our frequently asked questions, ssa.gov/FAQs. And so it goes into the details about the option that you have to withdraw a claim, and then you can reapply for a future date. I'm going to complicate things a little bit more, but the person who asked that question, they might be more technically inclined. You also have the option to suspend your benefits at your full retirement age to earn delayed retirement credits. So remember when I was talking about your age when you start receiving the benefit affects how much of it you receive. And if you choose to delay after full retirement age, you earn a delayed retirement credit. Well, it's possible, it's kind of complicated, but it's possible that you could start your benefit, let's say at 62, but then when you reach full retirement age, you contact us and you suspend the benefit so that you can earn those delayed retirement credits, and you can earn those delayed retirement credits up until age 70. So that's another technical way to increase benefits. And I'll throw in three is a number I like to do for completion when I'm explaining bullets. A third way that you could change your benefit amount is if you continue to work. So at the beginning of my presentation, I explained that Social Security is utilizing your highest 35 years to compute your benefit amount. Well, if this last year of wages is higher than the lowest year we're using in your formula, we will automatically drop the low year, include the new high year, and recompute your benefit amount. So that's another way that your benefit could increase. And all those three examples that I gave, those were us, the amount, the actual computation, your primary insurance amount being changed. We didn't even get into, and I said I was keeping it to three, so I won't go into it. But of course, I think most of your listeners know that your benefit could generally increase with a cost of living adjustment. But that's the COLA, and I'll highlight that on our website. But again, yes, it could. You could change your benefit amount. One, by withdrawing an application and reapplying later. Two, by suspending your benefit, voluntary suspending benefit at full retirement age or later. And then three, by having a new year of wages that's higher than the lowest year in the formula, and therefore us recomputing that benefit and giving you a higher amount. What a great question.
Yeah, thank you. It's nice to know it's not always set in stone, that there is some flexibility there. So, okay, well, we are coming to the end of our program this morning. I want to remind people of some things that are coming up on our Facebook Live programs. This Wednesday on the 13th, we are going to be coming to you live from the Indiana State Fair, where we have a question and answer resource booth at the Indiana Arts Building. That's right next to the Hooks Drugstore, if that helps people visualize that. And sometimes Charo joins us at our booth in person. So come and speak to a ship counselor if you are attending the Indiana State Fair. We're in the Indiana Arts Building. Also, we are going to, after we give a greeting from the State Fair, Megan is going to take us on a tour of our website. And that's going to show you not only where we are at the Indiana State Fair, but also all the other places in your communities where you can talk to a ship counselor in person or where we might be doing some presentations. Then we're going to end the month on Medicare Monday on the 25th with a special guest, Dennis Frick. He's the executive director of the Senior Law Project, which is part of Indiana Legal Services. And Dennis is going to talk to us about Medicaid, how it works with Medicare, and all of the changes that have happened around Medicaid. So mark that on your calendar. Think up some good questions for Dennis, and he will help you process those and hopefully get you some good answers. So all of our Facebook Lives begin at 10 a.m. Eastern Time right here on our Facebook page. And remember, this is going to be posted on our Facebook page for a month, and then it will be taken down and it will be on our YouTube channel for another several months. If you have questions, you know where to find us at Indiana Ship 1-800-452-4800 or on our website, medicare.in.gov. So on behalf of Indiana Ship, I want to say thank you to everyone who took part in today's Facebook Live. And as we're ending, Charo, is there anything you would like to follow up on in any of the questions or share your own closing comments?
You know, first, I really am grateful for the opportunity. And I know it's hard to cover such a wide, you know what I mean, program because we cover retirement, we spouse, ex-spouse, survivors, in an hour. But I really hope that this provided your listeners a really good high-level overview and pointed them to some resources. I apologize if there were any questions that were submitted that I wasn't able to get to, and I really want to mention ssa.gov/FAQ. That's where you'll find the answers to our 200 most frequently asked questions. So those technical questions we got about can you change your benefit, can you withdraw, even questions like that are there because again, it's the answers to our 200 most frequently asked questions, ssa.gov/FAQ. As I heard you talk about the state fair, it has been a joy joining SHIP at the state fair, and I will be there this Wednesday. I believe that is August the 13th. I'm not sure if that was a date that you mentioned, but I'll be there on Wednesday, the 13th, as an early celebration for Social Security's birthday, which is the 14th. So if anyone has any questions, they can come out and get their questions answered face to face. I'll also be giving out mouse pads as I'm promoting our website, ssa.gov, and encouraging individuals to create that My Social Security account so that they can, if they're planning, see their information, get estimates, and if they're receiving benefits, let's say they need a replacement Medicare card, how they're able to do that there. The last thing you said, was there anything else that I wanted to add? Susan, I failed to mention about our automated services. So as I promote our website, ssa.gov, I understand that everyone is not online. I want your listeners to know that at 1-800-772-1213, our national toll-free number, we have automated services. So you do not have to wait to talk to a person, but when the system asks you, how can they help you? You could say, I need a benefit verification letter. It's going to ask you a few more questions and it's going to mail a benefit verification letter to that address that is on file. I know we're getting ready to come up on energy assistance time for individuals to apply for that. So if you needed proof of your Social Security benefit, you could simply call that toll-free number if you're not online. So again, it's there in your My Social Security account. But if you're not online, you can call us at our national number and utilize that automated services. Other automated services is like replacement Medicare card. If you need to check the status of a claim, if you want to find the office that is your servicing office. And we even have informational messages to where You can listen to a message that goes into details about a particular topic, like representative payee or advanced designation and things like that. So I know time has gone by so fast this morning, and we're basically out of time. But I just wanted to also mention that we have automated services at that toll-free number, 1-800-772-1213.
Right, and I put that number and the website plus the slash FAQ for people to use for a resource. So thanks everybody for hanging in there with us. And if you have any questions, we do keep track of this Facebook Live program, and we will get back with you if you ask a question in the chat. Have a terrific day. Thanks for joining us. And thank you, Charo.
Thank you. See how I find my Wi-Fi. I can come on at the end. Thanks, everyone.